The following program on PBS 39 is made possible in part by
Excellence lives here in northeastern Indiana. It's reflected in more than 200 nationally recognized degrees. It drives our Division I sports. It's alive in our campus life. Excellence has a name, IPFW. Around our campus, around the country, around the world. Excellence lives here. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
This is Arts Weekly. Arts Weekly is presented by the College of Visual and Performing Arts at IPFW, offering degrees in fine arts, music, theater, and visual communication and design. IPFW, the energy of the arts. Welcome to this edition of Arts Weekly. I'm Melinda Haines with the IPFW College of Visual and Performing Arts. Later in the show, we'll set sail down the mighty Mississippi to hear from Fort Wayne Youth Theater's Leslie Horman about their production of The Adventures of Huck Finn that opens October 5th. But first, let's meet Paul Hoverman, Executive Director of the Niswonger Performing Arts Center in Van Wert, Ohio. He's here to talk about their new season and more. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Melinda. It's nice to be here.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
First off, I want to say congratulations on the 5th year for the Niswonger Performing Arts Center.
Thank you.
That's a terrific achievement. And I'm wondering if you can start off by telling us, a little bit about the history of the Niswonger and what exactly the Performing Arts Center provides for Van Wert and the surrounding area.
Sure. Well, like you said, we just finished celebrating 5 years. Started in 2007. And the Performing Arts Center was originally an idea that it might be a school auditorium. And then when Scott Niswonger, who's the namesake, got involved in the building of the project, one thing happened after another, and by the time we finished, we had a $10 million Performing Arts Center that seats 1,200. And we have a 175-seat lecture hall that goes with that, and it's just a beautiful place that Scott's helped provide for us.
So the Performing Arts Center also functions as an auditorium for the schools as well.
It does. Yeah. It was all built with privately donated money, and then was gifted over to the Van Wert City School System. And then they, in turn, then lease it back to the Van Wert Area Performing Arts Foundation, of which I'm the president of that, and then the executive director. And so we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we're the ones who are in charge of the operations there then.
So in the operations, then you are the ones who are choosing the acts that are going to be here this season.
We do all the professional acts, and the school does all of their things there too, though.
Well, and coming up next, you have a very famous Hoosier who's coming to Van Wert. So if you can tell us a little bit about Bob Knight's visit.
Bob Knight, you either love him or you hate him, it seems, isn't it? When we were talking about him, we put him on our lecture series, and some people said, "Oh, I would never go hear Bob Knight," and other people said, "How in the world did you ever get Bob Knight there?" He is certainly a very colorful person, and like I said, you either love him or hate him. But he certainly has done a lot of good, and I know there are a lot of Hoosiers that still respect him and appreciate all he did here at IU.
Well, I'm sure that you'll get a lot of people traveling from this area over to Van Wert, and it's not a very long drive either, is it? About 45 minutes?
45 minutes, and that's almost obeying the speed limit. Yeah.
So he's a part of your lecture series. So you have a lecture series, and you have what, musicals and other what other series do you have?
Well, we try to do a lot of variety of things. And any of our events we sell single tickets to, as well as packages. So we do have about 4 different speakers this year. But really our main purpose and focus is in the performing arts and doing concerts and shows and things like that.
So you have a pretty exciting group coming up. First, the Lennon Sisters.
Well, yeah, someone was talking to me about that, and they said, well, what kind of things do you do? I said, well, we do everything. And that's evident by starting out with someone like Bob Knight, and then 2 days later going to the Lennon Sisters. Bob Knight's on October the 4th on a Thursday, and then Saturday, October 6th, we have the Lennon Sisters. And there are 3 of them that are performing, and they come with a band, and probably some of your viewers maybe have seen them in Branson or some of those kind of shows. But I've had a chance to see some of their show, and they still sound wonderful. They sound great. They have all the beautiful harmonies.
Really belies their age. I mean,
It
they
does.
have been around for a couple
I don't know
generations.
if they want me to tell their age, so I don't think I'll say that, but they still look youthful. We'll keep it there.
So after the Lennon Sisters, you've got a great play, musical, coming up, Nunset Boulevard. Tell us about Nunset Boulevard.
Nunset Boulevard. We were kind of talking about that. That's part of the Nunsense series of musicals that has been going on, and this is one of the later ones, Nunset Boulevard. And it stars Cindy Williams.
Laverne and Shirley. Yeah,
Laverne and Shirley. And I think she plays, was it Mother Superior, one of those characters. And it's always a lot of fun. It's hilarious. The bunch of nuns that think that they're going to a concert or a show, and they actually end up in a bowling alley. And so they think they're putting on a show, and I guess you just have to come and see it. We did an earlier one of those, I think, Nunsense, with Sally Struthers, and she just tore the house up. And was hilarious, and we're looking for the same thing here.
I'm sure it'll be extremely popular.
Yeah.
So after Nunset Boulevard, Philadelphia Big Brass.
Rodney Mack and the Philadelphia Big Brass. Rodney Mack is a trumpet player, and I met him in Columbus last year, and we started talking, and I'm a trumpet player also, and so we kind of had a lot of interest, but we were talking, and he had told me that he got his start by taking lessons from his cousin, and his cousin is Wynton Marsalis.
That's
so
handy.
yeah, that's pretty handy. That's a great teacher in the family. And anyway, he gets all these all-star brass players from the East Coast, puts them together, and Rodney Mack and the Philadelphia Big Brass, and they'll do everything from Gershwin to all kinds of pops to classical and Baroque. It's just a whole genre of brass music. And they have a drummer with them too, so they lighten things up once in a while.
Well, that's going to be a great show, very full of big sound. And that's going to be great. So, you know, you have a show like that might be more popular with adults, but it looks like you have a lot of very family-friendly activities and shows that are going on as well, too. We've got one, Imagine Ocean. What is Imagine Ocean?
Imagine Ocean is a kid show, as you can probably imagine, and no pun intended. But you might be able to see on the screen some of the blacklight puppet theater that's going on there. And it's just a great kids show. We did one last year. We had some requests for like preschool, kindergarten, grade 1 and 2 or something, somewhere in that area. And I learned about this show, and it actually reminded me a lot of the movie Nemo, Finding Nemo.
Finding Nemo, yeah.
And so I looked at it and thought, I think kids will really enjoy this. You know, the theater will probably go dark and you know, maybe a little spooky for a real young, but I think preschool and on up, they just love this.
Well,
kind
it looks
of
like
thing.
a very colorful, it is musical, right? So
Yeah.
we've got music
Yeah.
going on and all the
Live
colors and the
music.
motion.
Yeah.
And at an hour long, I think that's a nice length of time for those little ones to sit still and pay attention to that.
Right.
Now, you've got something coming up that I had never heard about, Agudisman and Jew. That is a group that I said, what in the world is that? But they look fascinating.
Well, I said the same thing when I first heard about them. I had a agent that I work with, and he kept telling me about Agudisman and Jew, and I said, now slow down, say the name again. And he kind of educated me on them, and I started researching them more and more, and found out how immensely popular they were. They've performed in Carnegie Hall. They just recently performed at Symphony Hall in Chicago. And So they've been all over. Their YouTubes are very popular. And I guess the best way to describe them is I think they're kind of like the modern Victor Borge, because they'll take a lot of classical music and just make it hilarious. All kinds of physical humor and things like that. So if you love Victor Borge, I think you'd love Gudusman and Jew.
And so it's a Russian violinist and an Oriental pianist providing this entertainment.
And from what I can tell, they both sound tremendous as musicians.
So they're making it so accessible. I would think that would be another family-friendly show, as is Shrek that's coming up after that. So you've got show after show that I think the whole family. So the Shrek show, it's going to be obviously not the movie, but how do they put Shrek on stage?
Well, Shrek the musical, it was on Broadway, and now it's touring. And I'm told, and you can kind of see that I've been told that if you love the movie, you're going to love it live on stage. And I always think that live on stage of anything is always better. I do know that it's quite an involved show. It's a big show, 4 semi-trucks to move the show in. And I know that once Shrek gets in his outfit, he can't get out of it until both shows are done. We're having 2 shows. And it's December 22nd, and we're having, I think, a 2 o'clock matinee and a 7:30 evening show. So once that guy gets in that costume, and the room temperature has to be like 65 degrees, we have to really control the environment a lot.
He needs air conditioning inside his costume.
But a big musical, live musicians, a big pit orchestra. We get to show off our live pit there that we have, which is an electronic pit. So the music is great. People will recognize a lot of the music from that. And of course, if they've seen the movie, they're gonna be able to follow the show.
Know the story.
And kids will just love it. Very funny.
Well, that sounds wonderful. Well, can you tell us if people want more information or tickets? How can they get that?
There are a number of ways. Our box office is always open 12 to 4, noon to 4, Monday through Friday. And we're located on State Route 118 South. So we can do that in person, or if you aren't in Van Wert, which many viewers wouldn't be, you can actually purchase tickets online. And I think our web address is there, npacvw.org, and you can just purchase the tickets right online. Or you can call the box office, and the phone number is listed there also.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much for being here,
Paul.
Thank
you, Melinda.
That is a wonderful lineup of shows and guests planned for Niswonger this season. As we prepare for our next guest, please take a minute to view our performance calendar of what is coming up in our region. We'll be right back with Leslie Hoverman of Fort Wayne Youth Theater to talk about Huck Finn. With me now is Leslie Hoverman, Executive Director of Fort Wayne Youth Theater. Their new production is The Adventures of Huck Finn, and it opens next weekend at the Arts United Center. Welcome, Leslie.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I want to hear about this adventure of Huck Finn.
Well, it's the great American novel. It's a wonderful story. Filled with adventure, hijinks, a lot of crazy characters, but it's the classic story. Huck Finn, he escapes from his dad, and he and the escaped slave, Jim, embark on a journey down the Mississippi River, and it's just the Mark Twain classic, and it's very kid-friendly, very family-friendly, and just filled with fun and music and a lot of fun characters.
Well, and I think so many people know either the whole story
Sure.
or they know little snippets of the story, so they're going to be finally reminiscing as they watch
bet.
this. But I think one of the things that's making this production unique is that it was adapted by Harvey Cox.
Yes, Harvey Cox,
So
our
how does
artistic director.
how does he adapt it and then go about the job of directing it?
Yeah, he's very, very good at doing this. He has adapted many stories and books into children's plays, and he said that Huck Finn was one of the hardest ones because there's so many scenes. It's a very, very big book, and you know, it's an hour-long show because it is children's theater. We make it about, every show's about an hour. You know, you got to keep the kids' attention, and you know, that's such a time span. But he just picked the more famous scenes and just does a great job of just keeping the flow moving and something very, very enjoyable and kid-friendly. We want to keep that emphasis.
Well, and I think as the adapter of the play, he directing it, then he knows what he wants to get across from those special scenes.
He writes the scenes and he has the vision in his mind, and that does make it easier then as a director. And boy, he directs 40 kids, and you know, the task of bringing the pages to life, he really does a super job.
Well, and he is not doing that alone. You are helping in lots of different ways.
Sure.
I know, besides being the executive director, you're assistant director for this show, and I have a long list of other things that you're doing. You know, so tell us a little bit about, you know, the other things that you're doing, the costumes, the choreography.
The costuming, of course, it's you know, it's in the 1880s, so it's you know, kind of pioneerish. They're not rich townspeople. It's a very poor group of people, and so it's, you know, a lot of pioneer outfits. And we did get we have a huge wardrobe down in the dungeon, as I call it, of the Arts United Center, and we pulled a lot of costumes from there. As far as there's dancing, I choreographed some numbers. There's a square dance, and what Hoosier doesn't love square dancing?
That's right.
But you know, they gather, one of the scenes they gather for a show that these two con men are putting on, and the family or the town gets together and they do a real neat little square dance. So that's another part of it, and it's comes to be that I'm also I have a role in the show. I'm one of 3 adults, actually 4 adults in the show, and I play the old woman who Huck is dressed up as a woman. He's trying to escape, and so he's in disguise, and he comes to this woman, you know, it's just a random house, and gets food from her because he's hungry, and it's a real neat scene. But it's a small part, but it's kind of neat to be back on the youth theater stage because I grew up on that stage. You know, in 3rd grade I started with youth theater, and so wow, it's kind of a homecoming.
That's a wonderful cameo appearance.
It's
for
a cameo, yes, very juicy part.
So how similar or dissimilar is this to the original stage version or even to the film adaptation?
Sure. Well, we, like I said, he has to be very choosy about the scenes he picked. And the scenes, like I said, they're very, very high action. So there's a lot, you know, because once again, when you're dealing with children, you know, you can't get tripped down in the verbiage. They keep very, very active, and there's a lot going on. We also add a lot of Americana music. We've got 2 choirs, one from Arlington Elementary under the direction of Janet Piercy, and one from Canterbury Lower School under the direction of Kristen Marquell, and they intersperse Americana folk tunes through the show, and it's a wonderful transitional piece to have the music. It show-offs the choir, and it adds a real folk flavor. You know, the music adds to the actual scene.
Are both choirs on at the same time? They're taking turns with different performances?
Yes, with
How many voices are in each of those choirs?
About 40.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness! So
So it's
that's
real
quite a
neat.
sound.
Yes, it's a
that
great
you're
sound.
Getting out
And
of
it's great music that we all grew up with. You know, Shoe Fly and Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, and it's, like I said, it's Americana, it's folk music, but it just adds so much to the show.
And I think you've already touched on this a little bit, but for the length of the book, you know, it's an hour.
Yes.
In this, you know,
He really had to do some choosing because there's, you know, it's a very, very large book, and so he definitely had to choose some of the stories and some of the scenes.
So for the kids who are acting on the stage, I mean, that's, you know, helpful that it's a manageable length piece, but also the kids in the audience. I mean, these are very family-friendly productions, so that, you know, kids of any age are going to enjoy the music, and the action is going to just keep going.
They keep it rolling.
So speaking of short, season opener, you've had a pretty short rehearsal span.
I
for
think
this.
of any of the community theaters, youth theater has the shortest rehearsal time of any of the community theaters. We just rehearse 3 weeks in the rehearsal hall, then we have 4 days on stage, and then it's showtime.
I think the kids, their minds just are more able
Quick.
to grasp that.
They're pretty good at memorizing. You'd be
Yeah.
surprised how good they are at memorizing. And you know, they're ready to get on the stage. 3 weeks up in a rehearsal hall, let me on
almost
that
too
stage.
long for them.
And we do perform at the Arts United Center, where the Civic Theater performs, where the ballet performs, and it's a huge stage, and it's just, you know, it's very enticing.
It's a lot of space to fill, so
bet.
you're going to have a lot of people
40
in
kids.
the show. 40 kids.
40
okay,
people.
so it's not an ensemble cast. You do have some lead actors
You bet,
in these
yeah.
parts.
Andrew Bauer is our Huck Finn. Wonderful job with the dialect. He has the dialect perfect. And Ennis Brown Jr. plays our Jim. And he's very familiar to theater goers in the community. He was in Dreamgirls. He recently got done with A Few Good Men. So he's a wonderful actor in the community theater. And this is something fun for him because he gets to do children's theater. And that's kind of a fun little stretch for these actors to do children's theater because it's very specific and it's different than your other community theater.
Well, and with 40 people in the cast, and how many of them are adults then?
3. Yeah, 3
Yeah,
adults.
so-
Actually, 4 adults. 4
4
adults, yeah,
Oh,
including
my
myself.
gosh. So, well, that's just a great mix, though, because it's
It is.
wonderful for the kids to get used to working with adults and for the adults to be mentors to
Sure.
all of these actors as well. So putting on the show, you've also got to have a fabulous set, because I think people are going to realize, oh my goodness, they're going to be going down the Mississippi on a raft. You know,
We've got a raft.
Tell me about your sets and how you are making all of that come alive.
Sure. Well, we've got some set pieces, as we call it, you know, little shacks where Huck lives. But we do have the famous raft because a lot of the action takes place on that raft. And in fact, we have a stagecraft class. You know, youth theater offers 13 different classes, and one of the classes is stagecraft. So the set is a lot of it is done by these middle school and high school students that are getting great hands-on experience into the other aspect of theater, the behind-the-scenes aspect of theater.
So you've got the raft, you've got the wagons too. I mean, that's
Sure.
got to be another big part of the set that the
Definitely.
kids are all over. With the children or adults, how can they get involved in youth theater? What is how do they start?
It's great. You come down and you should audition, first of all. Anyone can audition. You don't have to be taking a class to audition. It's a great exercise in presenting yourself confidently, with poise, with self-belief, and it's a great experience to to get in and just to give it a try. You don't have to do any prep. You come in and we just have you do a little bit of reading. We have kids audition from 6 all the way to adults. And so auditioning is a good way to become involved. We also have classes, as I mentioned before, 13 different classes. That's a great way to kind of whet your appetite, test the waters.
Learn what acting is
You
all
bet,
about.
you
And
bet.
I am guessing that all of this information, the audition notices and the classes, are on your website.
It sure
so
is.
everybody can go there to learn when the next show is going to be and
Yes.
how to audition, where
Yes,
to call, where
good
to show
stuff.
up.
And just come see a show. That's a great way to kind of see what it's all about.
And people have been watching these shows for 78 seasons.
78 seasons.
So just the age of Fort Wayne Youth Theater, it shouldn't really be called youth theater.
Yeah.
It should be like elder theater. But I mean, this has got to be one of the oldest
Sure.
ones in the country.
4th oldest in the nation.
Oh my gosh.
4th oldest in the nation. I don't think a lot of people realize that.
Yeah.
But we were started in 1934, and we have been sustained by support through the community and all the surrounding area.
So with Huck Finn being the opening act, how does that kind of set the stage for the rest of your season? Tell me how you've chosen what's going on
All the things
next.
that we choose are literature-based. They're all based on a children's classic. We open with Huck Finn, like you said, and then we do The Snow Queen is our next one. That's our holiday show. It's the Hans Christian Andersen classic. We follow The Snow Queen and all its icy magic with Oliver, and that's the classic musical.
Oh, and that's going to be a collaboration
Yes.
with IPFW Department
I'm
of Theater.
very excited
and
about
that's
working
going to
with
be
John.
a big show.
Yes,
Very
John
big
O'Connell
show.
and I are directing this. He's the director. I'm the assistant. I'm the assistant director / child wrangler.
And I'm guessing you're going to have a whole lot of bulleted items after your name about the different things that you do
Exactly.
again in
Yes,
that.
and then we're ending after Oliver. We're doing Anansi the Spider, and anyone who's familiar with children's literature is very familiar with the the trickster tales. It's African folk tales, and we're going to have large-scale spiders and large-scale puppets on stage with elephants.
Oh
and
my gosh.
all sorts of stuff.
The camps that you've got.
Yes,
that
and
are
we've got
coming.
one
You've
coming
got a
up.
winter camp, and
We
then
sure do.
Tell us a little bit about the camps.
If you're looking for something to do, it's the 2 days between Christmas and New Year's, so it's during Christmas break. And this is a perfect way for someone to come and just kind of get a taste of what a youth theater class is all about. It's from 10 until 2. You have lunch with us, and you can do one day or both days, all things theater: pantomime, improvisation, choreography, scene study, dialogue, blocking, a little bit of music, makeup, puppets. It's all things theater, and it's jam-packed into one fun-filled day. You can go, like I said, one day or both, but it's really a great way to get to know youth theater, and maybe you'd want to take a class after camp.
And you don't have to have any experience to do these camps. They're just
Not
going
at
to
all.
learn the basics.
Second grade and up.
Second grade, okay.
Yep.
Great.
Yes.
So can you tell us how to get tickets, how to get information about your program and about the Huck Finn that's coming up?
Well, get online at fortwayneyouththeater.org, all one word, fortwayneyouththeater.org. And for tickets, you can call our box office 422-4226. That's 422-4226. And you can, of course, buy tickets online. Thank goodness for the 21st century.
Yeah, it makes it a whole lot easier, doesn't it? Well, thank you so much for being here, Leslie. I'm Melinda Haines with the IPFW College of Visual and Performing Arts. On the next Arts Weekly, we'll talk with Dr. Hamilton Tescarolo from the IPFW Department of Music and his piano student, Jason Simon, who will be playing the Rachmaninoff Symphony No. 2 in an upcoming Fort Wayne Philharmonic concert. Then we'll be joined by Jonathan Mogg and Robert Shoquist to discuss the creative energy they've brought to the sets and lights at the Fort Wayne Civic Theater. Watch us here live next Thursday evening at 7:30 on PBS 39.
The preceding program on PBS 39 was made possible in part by
Excellence lives here in northeastern Indiana. It's reflected in more than 200 nationally recognized degrees. It drives our Division I sports. It's alive in our campus life. Excellence has a name, IPFW. Around our campus, around the country, around the world. Excellence lives here. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.